Welcome to the Mom Please podcast, the #1 generation-spanning show that discusses all the latest issues in modern society, with your millennial host, Eric Joseph, along with baby boomer representative and co-host, Carol Strand. Join us as we delve into what's going on in the world today and discuss how to bridge the aisle to find common ground. And now, for this week's episode of Mom Please. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mom Please, the discussion and debate show that spans generations and tries to make some sense out of everything that's going on in modern society. I am your millennial host, Eric Joseph, and I am joined by my lovely baby boomer co-host, as always, Carol Stram. How are you today, Mom?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for asking. As you know, Eric and I are mother and son, and we like to have discussions about a lot of different topics. We don't always agree on them, but we always try to keep it civil and respectful. And we hope everybody would use that model, don't we?
We do. But that's not always what we get.
Right.
Now, today, we have an interesting topic for you guys. Last time, we said that we were going to jump into discussing collegiate athletics and NIL money, name, image, likeness money. But in doing our research, we actually discovered that things are kind of in crisis at the youth level, and there is serious stuff that we want to discuss, and that we figured this warrants an entire standalone episode. Mm-hmm. So we are going to talk today about youth sports and the impacts that
Eric,
private equity youths. Yeah, is that what you're going to say? Oh, man, over here. You know, I feel like I just finished watching The Sopranos. You'd fit perfectly in there.
I do.
So we are going to be looking at youth sports, the injection of private equity into youth sports, and how that has changed the landscape from when you were a kid to when I was a kid about 25, 30 years ago to
we don't have to say how many years ago it was for me. Thank you very much.
We don't. To what is happening nowadays. So with that, what do you think, Mom?
Well, I think that what we've seen is a huge change in the last 30 years.
I mean, so.
Even since you were a competitor at the youth level. And, a lot of these sports programs at that point were community-based models. So you went to the YMCA or you went to the local park district and you participated there.
Right.
And it was seasonal participation. It was, soccer in the fall, baseball in the spring, football in the fall, that kind of thing. Cheerleading in the fall.
Yep.
And now it's turned into super competitive, highly organized, very commercial. A lot of money has been thrown into this industry, and it's really kind of a pay-to-play environment. So it's very different for the kids themselves. It's a different experience. It's concentrating its energy on revenue generation and not on developing the athlete, developing the child as an athlete.
Or just having fun.
Yeah,
because isn't that what all sports is ultimately kind of about, having fun?
Well, not if you get paid millions of dollars to do it.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
And so, anyway, the rise of youth sports industry starts with the initial model, which is local rec leagues and school-based athletics, YMCA, seasonal sports, and multiple sports throughout the year, like you often saw a 3-sport athlete. And
right.
I just want to bring this way back, like the way back machine.
Okay.
And look at my existence in sports. Okay, for one, I'm pre-Title IX.
Right, which is interesting. Very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting, which makes me officially older than dirt. But what it does do for me is it provides me with not much opportunity in terms of athletics. So I can tell you, for instance, in my elementary school, the boys competed in, I believe it was run by the park district, but all the schools competed in this park district league. And they competed maybe at 5th and 6th grade in basketball.
Okay.
They had youth football that they competed in, but that wasn't driven by a school. It was more like Pop Warner football.
Okay, so there was some,
the whole community can participate in these teams at certain age levels.
Yeah.
And then boys always had little league, so they did start little league probably at about age 8 or so, something like that.
Yep.
Where for girls, less competition. We started in the league at the community center, volleyball, 7th and 8th grade. Joint team, not even separate teams at 7th and 8th, one team from 7th and 8th grade girls. And then same with softball.
Yeah.
And again, it was seasonal. Volleyball in the winter, softball in the spring until we finished school.
Okay.
And then everything else in the world was a pickup game. I mean, we all went to like day camp and stuff, or went to what we called new teen programs for young teenagers, 12, pre-teenagers, almost 11, 12, 13, 14.
Right.
And we would have pickup games during the days, co-ed. We would have pickup volleyball, pickup softball. Softball, by the way, where I grew up, 16-inch softball, no mitts. You get a hard clincher for the first time, and if you were an infielder, first, second, third base, and you got a hot handle on that,
yeah, ouch.
I mean, it was often you came home with taped fingers because you might have broken one. Anyway,
yeah.
And if you wanted a pickup game in the neighborhood, you went outside and you yelled over to your friend's house, hey, Susie, come on out, and then we'd get enough kids to do something.
Yeah. Stickball, I think, would
stickball,
be a big thing
strikeouts,
for you guys,
whatever it was. So nothing was really organized, and everything was for fun. Everything was for fun. Nobody was ever thinking that they were going to be some kind of big-time athlete for the most part.
Sure.
Not from where I grew up, okay?
Okay. Let me speak then to my experience with my youth athletics. So I remember as a kid, there was basically a league for everything somewhere happening. So when you were, if you wanted to play basketball, I think there was the Jodie Foster Basketball League. Jodie Harrison, Jodie Foster. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Oh,
Eric, please. Jeez. And then there was AYSO soccer. You know, when you were a little kid.
Pop Warner.
There was Pop Warner football. There were Little League, baseball leagues. I think for the more niche sports, for hockey, we had this Darien Sportsplex that was like an indoor sports arena with all sorts of different kind of indoor sports, and I think they hosted some sort of hockey leagues.
Right.
We had
tennis.
Yeah, that kind of was a little bit more private, though. I feel like the tennis and the golf was run through like the private clubs, wasn't it, for the most part?
But tennis could be run through public associations, like actual park districts would sponsor the tournaments that you would enter.
Okay. So basically, what seemingly was happening was there was public money that was funding all sorts of different athletic opportunities for me, and I took full advantage of basically
in particular,
all of it.
Pop Warner football, and Pop Warner football was in every single community.
Right.
It wasn't based on socioeconomics. It was because Pop Warner itself was born out of folks trying to get kids off the street that might otherwise get in mischief.
No. Well, see, that's a good program then, and so there was all this public money happening, and then you would get into certain athletics in middle school. I think was kind of the first time that there were officially school organized athletics, and that was like track and field. I remember track was big. Basketball was really, really big. Then once you got to high school, you had a bit more in terms of the options. You had baseball, basketball, football,
volleyball,
tennis,
men's,
volleyball, wrestling,
hockey.
So many different things that you could do. And you even had extracurricular leagues. You had, for baseball, there was like pony league. There were fall ball leagues.
Right.
There was all sorts of stuff.
Everything.
So I think, the like traveling baseball, like the pony leagues and the fall ball stuff were a little bit more privately funded. I don't think there's a lot of.
I don't think the pony leagues were, but I do think that the others were.
Yeah, the other stuff is. So there is some combination of there's
Still public money.
options.
Right.
There's these, as you say, park district leagues that are being funded by that. But there's also like parents organizing through themselves to have other leagues and other things happening, traveling teams and whatnot.
Right.
So that's kind of how I remember it being for me up until the high school level.
So now the commercial model has even taken what you experienced and it's kind of ramped it up. To a degree.
Yes.
Okay. So for instance, now there's a great deal of travel teams where, a group of persons get together and they recruit a team and they go to, different areas to, compete against other teams, or they go to, an actual,
like a hosted tournament somewhere. Oh my gosh! I remember when we were kids, we went to Cooperstown to play at the very, very famous Cooperstown Sportsplex.
That was just that our team had the money to take the kids to Cooperstown.
Right. And you know what's crazy about that? Cooperstown just got bought out by some big financing group. The whole entire venue. So that whole thing that we did is probably going to go away, or it's going to change, or it's going to cost a lot more money.
Cost more money. Yeah. Right. So traveling teams are interesting in the sense that when you were a kid, on average, you played 17 Little League games.
Yeah,
right.
Sounds right.
And then if you had the talent, if you were identified as somebody with a little talent, you got to go to the All-Stars. That extended the season a little bit.
Right, like another month,
right,
maybe.
Like another month. And that was it.
Yeah.
But now these kids are playing in Little League and traveling teams at the same time, which, gosh, there's no downtime. There's no downtime.
Yeah.
So it's outside the community district. It's just all privatized.
Right.
And then there's also clubs and organizations like I think hockey.
Yes.
And lacrosse.
Yeah, they tend to have
weren't
club
at one
teams.
point they weren't sanctioned high school. But kids started in youth programs that were private, and they went to these showcases and they went to tournaments, and that was all privately funded. And like if you think about hockey in particular, the amount of equipment that you have to buy for a kid, and then all the travel.
It's got to be a ton.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's got to be.
Private coaching. Swimmers had to have private coaches. Baseball players had to have a batting coach.
I had like three different
a fielding
coach.
Everybody had to have this whole cadre of coaches. You might have had somebody who was a trainer. All kinds just to support a little 12-year-old. Little Johnny
playing some baseball.
Whose mom and dad just thinks he's going to be the next Johnny Bench.
Yeah. He's going to be the next, Mike Trout.
Right.
It's probably not going to happen. Spoiler alert, guys.
Yeah. Sports-specific training places. Like in our area, we had the Bulls Sox Academy.
Right. That was huge. That was huge.
Not just, the Bulls Sox running this out of the goodness of their heart.
No, they're making a dime.
You're paying to participate in that. Then recruiting services to get your kid on the right youth team, right?
Yeah. It's so important now to get them on the right teams early. That's critical.
And then performance analytics, of course, retaining your own statistics, making sure that all that is known, and perhaps even doing, tapes to showcase yourself at a young age. I'm talking about 12-year-olds. I'm not talking about...
That's crazy. Yeah, like you can do that maybe when you're like 18 trying to go to college. Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. But when you're that age, it's wild.
Yeah. And then any kind of apps that you might subscribe to that might be tutorials on this, that, or the other thing, so that's increased. So,
I've even heard, and this is, sorry to cut you off.
No.
I've even heard
this is a conversation
with the apps and the streaming services, as more private money is starting to consolidate. This is a little bit of a segue, but I'm going to bring it back. So everybody's super mad at Ticketmaster for buying up all the concert venues and forcing all of the artists to go only through their concert venues. And if they go outside the system, they're like blackballed, and it makes the concert prices, the ticket prices, absolutely insane for people, right? Sports, youth sports are starting to fall under that same model. There's especially like hockey is the big example here. There's a group called Big Bear Sports Group, and they have collectively consolidated a huge amount of the hockey rinks. They own a bunch of hockey rinks, especially in the Northeast, where hockey is really, really huge,
We're
right?
super big.
And what they do is you are not allowed as a parent, when your child plays a game, if you go there and you have a recording device and you start recording, they will have some security thug come up to you and like slap the phone out of your hand and say, you can't record that.
Because we can only record it.
They have their own cameras installed in
Right.
all of these rinks, and they have a streaming service that you can, as a parent, pay $50 a season to join, and then you can watch
Maybe
your
it's
kid play
$50.
hockey.
Maybe
right?
it's $50 a
And that's the crazy thing to me, is that's such a fundamental change from, like, I'm sure that you guys
Oh my
would
God, people
bring your
live behind
camcorder,
camcorders,
right, and
you
their
know?
Super 8s, and they
I
would
mean, you
film their
know,
kids playing,
yeah.
think
Think about,
whatever sports.
one of the kids
right?
on one of your baseball teams, he always was behind the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the dads was a huge camera
Yeah,
guy. He was taking all the pictures
Yeah, he
and
was
all the
taking all the
videos and
pictures,
stuff.
right.
So like your team now will get penalized in the league structure
wow.
if they find your parents doing that.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
unbelievable kind
So
of
it's
how much it costs.
Right. And it's interesting when we look at costs that since 2019, this isn't all that long ago, the increase to participate in youth sports has increased by 46%. The cost.
That's
the cost.
in what, 7 years?
Yeah,
6
that's not
years?
a long time.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's about $1,000 annually on average, but that doesn't include club participation and equipment. Like $3,000 to $5,000 annual for those, and $8,000 for some of the traveling sports. Like, I mean, if you're
Holy
taking these
moly.
trips to Cooperstown, you know, and showcasing, it's big money.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Do you
I
like?
was-
Can you guess?
Yeah.
Because we were in a lot of sports. You know,
Okay.
Jonathan was in like tennis
Yeah.
and baseball. I
And
was in
Andrea's
baseball and football.
softball and
Andrea's in
tennis,
softball
yeah.
and tennis. How much a year? Can you guys put a number on it? Do you think of what?
Yeah,
what you spent
I think it
on
was
your kids playing
I think
sports?
that monthly.
Yeah, give me a monthly.
Conservatively, with 3 kids active in multiple sports.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little different than what they're also talking about nowadays. Now
Sure.
they're talking about great deal of specialization.
Yeah.
But our kids played multiple sports. You played soccer, you played everything.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you played baseball, you played football, you did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to guess that we probably spent maybe almost $1,000 a month on 3 kids in a couple of sports. Because
Okay.
Jonathan played basketball and tennis, and Andrea played softball.
And this is in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is 20 some odd years ago. So that's $12,000 a year on those 3
yeah,
kids.
I'm sure it was probably close.
Yeah,
close to
yeah, that sounds about right. So
now-
nowadays that'd be like $25,000.
Okay, so because if you look at that cost structure, one of the things that's damaging about this is that it creates a bigger gap in the haves and have-nots.
Oh, yeah.
So the people
Oh, yeah.
that can afford all of this are affording it and doing it, and the
Right.
people who can't don't.
Yeah.
Right? So it's creating a larger gap from people from wealthier households are getting the development, the sports development that the other kids are not getting.
Right.
And there are very few and far between, I would think, parents like Richard Williams, who was the parent of Serena and
Venus.
who took them to the public park and worked every single day with them after school.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, what parent nowadays has time to do that?
right.
None. Nobody.
And you know, in many cases, you're talking about 2-income families.
Yeah, exactly.
So
nobody
you
has
know,
has time.
nobody has the time to do that with a kid. And then the further thing about, you know, in the Williams sisters situation, we're talking about tennis, which was pretty much club oriented.
Yeah, I
you
think
know?
so. Yeah.
And as is golf.
Right.
So I don't think, unless you're a Rory McIlroy, where his parents, you know, committed to him. He was an only kid. He wanted to do golf. They
and they
committed
had
to
like
him.
3 jobs or
and
whatever, right?
they just made it happen for him.
You hear stories like that here and there about these athletes
lot
being
of those,
supported.
right?
I think Lewis Hamilton is another, the Formula One driver. His dad worked a whole bunch and supported his career from a really early age, and they were not financially well off by any means, which is a shocker for Formula One. That's like a sport of all the money in the world. They just had Monaco this weekend, and you should have seen the yachts out in the harbor. They were unbelievable.
I need better friends, Eric. I need better friends.
Yeah, you need somebody to take you there. But it's becoming less and less an area where equality and equity is paramount. There are going to be fewer and fewer kids coming from lower income backgrounds playing sports, which is weird because it should be an equalizer.
Right.
You would think that that's kind of how sports has been.
And then there's the loss of development opportunities for kids who just don't have the money to do development on it. And just fewer opportunities for kids who are talented with less financial resources, although I'm going to kind of go hard at you a little bit later on that.
Oh, okay.
But, so now we're looking at...
I should get ready for that.
And I love this. The pay to play, play to develop, and pay to be seen is what it's an industry now.
Yeah.
It's an industry,
it is,
right?
It is, absolutely.
And for instance, we were with grandparents this weekend whose grandson lives in Georgia, and he was
Atlanta.
And he was traveling to Tampa for a weekend tournament. That's a long haul.
That's far.
And that's driving.
And that's a weekend tournament?
Yeah, weekend tournament.
Geez.
Weekend tournament.
Yeah.
So
that actually segues really nicely into what I wanted to talk about next, because weekend tournaments and the different kind of models that these league structures have nowadays, and all these athletic showcases and all these extra tournaments and things like that are happening, are causing kids to play far more games per year for each of the sports that they participate in than they used to. And it's kind of it's pretty big numbers from what I've done, from what I've looked into, right? So previously, under the former model, which is kind of what I operated under a bit more, there usually were sports were single season.
Right.
There would be maybe 20 games, 10 to 20 games, depending on what sport it was. Maybe even fewer. Like if it's football, maybe you play 8 games, right? And then you have at least a few months off before any other leagues would start up that you could participate in for that same sport. So you'd get some time off to either do another sport or to train for your original sport, or just hang out and just be a kid and chill, right? Nowadays, there's year-round play. Even for sports that you would think can't be year-round. I'll get into that in a sec. But kids are joining multiple teams simultaneously, like you pointed out earlier. They're playing the Little League and the club baseball, and the travel baseball maybe. They participate in these weekend tournaments, which you hear so much, especially from basketball guys. There's a good basketball podcast with a couple of guys on it. Kendrick Perkins.
Not Charles Barkley, I take it.
No, it's Richard Jefferson, Kendrick Perkins, and Channing Frye on the Road Trippin' Show. And they're talking about AAU basketball, which is like the American athletics, and they're saying that they have these weekend tournaments, which are 5 to 6 games every day of the tournament. So they're having kids play 10, 12, 15 games over the course of a weekend, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
The kids go to showcases. They attend these things that have them, if you're a basketball player, they want to see you shoot a bunch of threes. They want to see you cut to the lane a bunch. They want to see a skills showcase, right? Okay. And then you're also, like you say, traveling nationally. You're going from Georgia to Florida to play, or from Illinois to Wisconsin to Indiana to Michigan.
It's not just in your extended community, a 50-minute drive at most.
Yeah,
you're going far away.
It's at least regional now at this point. And even when I was a kid, I
remember
playing
4 hours going in.
I remember playing sports up in Racine, in Wisconsin.
Oh, well, I wanted to mention that. I wanted to mention that even when you were, and I don't know what we consider youth. I guess I consider 6 to maybe
like 14
or so
before high school.
But at the time, and this is a trickle down effect, I think. At the time, for instance, you had the model for Little League where you played Little League, you played All Stars,
Yep.
and then you were on a traveling team.
Right.
And then in the fall,
There were fall ball leagues.
You had fall ball, and
Yeah.
we used to drive to Kenosha for
Right.
a wooden bat league
Wood bats.
every Sunday.
Yeah.
We'd drive to that. And then, we would, during the summer, your high school, this was, you would have a summer baseball league.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
So we were already getting to that kind of
right,
point.
you were getting to that, but
Yeah.
not at the ages that it's getting
Yeah.
to now.
Yeah,
now
no.
it's coming down
Now
to lower level
it's
kids.
so far down at the lower
age
level.
kids, I mean.
This is just a little anecdotal story. So I went in to have my car serviced 2 weeks ago, get the winter tires changed out for the summer tires, and I talked to my service representative there, and I know he's got a kid who's in baseball,
Right.
who's 8, 9 years old or something at this point now. And before he is taking care of me, I overhear him talking about one of the games that they played recently. So I'm eager to chat him up. I want to hear
Right.
about his
'Cause you
kid's
like baseball.
Yeah. So, I talked to him. I'm like, I heard you talking about, did your son, hit a home run? And he's like,
Right.
yeah, it was great. It was really, really good game this weekend. And, I asked him, when did you guys start playing? And he said sometime around early April, early mid-April.
Yeah, very cold out up here.
And it is really, really cold and miserable in early April out here. So that's kind of, we would start then, but it's not fun. And then I hear him say something about, but that's just for our kids. There are other kids that they were playing in throughout the winter. And I was like, winter? What? So what, do they go and play in
They
the
go in domes,
They go
don't
and play
they?
in these
Yeah.
inflatable domes around here. And he's like, yeah. But so that's only for people like the parents have ponied up a lot of money. You got to have so much money
Yeah.
to participate in that.
Yeah.
And so this is all dovetailing perfectly into this, all of this stuff that we've researched is that there's a lot of private money happening and the parents have to pony up a lot of money to participate in these leagues. The sports are happening year round. Even like imagine baseball in a dome. You can't even have an outfield. The outfielders are pressed up so close that they're basically like extra infielders just behind the infielders. Like it's weird. It's not like
Yeah.
I asked him, I was like, how does that work?
Yeah.
And that's what he told me. But if the people who are running these athletics programs are pushing these parents and these kids
even
to
Andrea
play in all these
had
leagues.
to play softball in domes in February.
Yeah, in the winter time, in Chicago.
Right, and
it's one of the coldest places in the world.
Right. And one thing I remember is they couldn't get the dome early, so
Yeah.
the first game would start at 11 o'clock at night, and
Oh, yeah.
she's 11 years old,
she's like,
12 years old.
It's like practically
that
sleeping,
kind of
right?
wrecks your weekend.
Yeah, it's
needless
not-
to
it's
say.
not great.
But there was a couple things I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
About you identified that year-round participation, multiple teams. One of the things there's a growing trend in injury risk, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, this increases the injury risk
right.
a lot.
So what's happening is, a couple of things is that pitchers, as an example, they're expected to start throwing curveballs before their develop
Their
the
bodies
growth plates are ready to do that. And
It's not good.
kids are going into weight rooms before they should be going into weight rooms,
Not
which
good.
is really not good.
Yeah.
Again, back to this, these grandparents we were talking to about this weekend. They have a grandson who's a pitcher, and somebody said, well, they must limit the pitching. And I said, well, there's a pitch count. And they said, no, now there's an inning count.
Oh,
That doesn't make any sense.
Because the pitch, that doesn't make any sense.
And then
anybody who with a passing
right, and their
familiarity with
schedule
baseball
was
knows that
the
doesn't make
teams,
sense.
the games were stopped at 2 hours or 7 innings, whatever they got to first,
So there's
and
a time
then
limit too.
Half hour later, the next game starts.
Oh wow,
So it's a lot of
that's weird. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's very different than how we play. I remember some of our games going on for many, many hours in extra innings of overtime. But anyway, so yeah, there's a huge developmental concern in the amount of time that these kids are spending playing games. I think if I'm thinking about my heaviest seasons of baseball,
Right.
the seasons where I did the like school league, I
Right.
did the summer league, I did the wood bat league, 60 to 70 games, maybe.
Yeah. That's
Overall,
a lot of games.
Total. It's a lot of games. Nowadays,
and that would go from April through the end of maybe October.
Yeah, something
right?
like that.
Something
April-ish
like that.
to October.
Right.
And then I would have like the off season from November to February.
And that would be
and
training.
Then late February you would start in training and
right. But
trying
you're
out for the
also,
team, right?
at that time, you are a high schooler.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I'm a high schooler. Right. Now, so that's high school in the 2000s. Nowadays, before you're getting to the high school level, so this is like 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds. Kids are playing 100 to 120 games a year. That is almost as many as Major League Baseball players.
Yeah. I mean, it is
far,
less
far
innings.
too many.
It's less innings, but it's just way too much.
Yeah, it's way, way too much. And really, what is being missed out on a lot here is kids just practicing and developing their skills, and just having opportunity to just play and not have the pressure of, well, this is a showcase, this is a tournament, we got to win, we got to perform, this is the league, we got to do it. Free play, like scrimmaging, things like that.
Just having a good time.
All these athletes nowadays are so focused on competing, traveling, performing for coaches and scouts. It's a totally different game.
That brings up something in my mind right away. Is I think about the Little League teams, and it was the neighborhood kids. And of course, there were some kids on the team that were horrible and some kids on the team that were really good.
Sure.
But it was neighborhood and it was your buddies.
Yeah.
And you look forward to going to get snacks from the moms.
Yeah.
And you
go to the pitch and kitchen.
And maybe you got an ice cream afterward.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a whole, or you'd watch the older kids play.
Yeah, I would love watching the older kids
play. It was like a whole, and all the families were there.
Yeah. Very community driven.
And it was very community driven, and everybody was, I didn't feel like there was ever a lot of angst about, oh my gosh, we have to win all the time, or oh my gosh, this kid doesn't have the skills, so I'm going to leave him left out. I mean, because Little League itself, the national organization, has rules about how much a kid has to play and so forth and so on. So that's really good. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's leading into, because these schedules are so heavy, kids are not often playing multiple sports anymore.
Right.
They specialize really, really early and into one specific sport. So they pick one sport, they train for it, and they play it year round, and they exclude participation in basically all other sports.
Right.
And this is all happening before they're even 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that one of the things that a lot of people who are very, very versed in sports, who know, what's what kind of, will say that you want to be very, very careful as an athlete about playing a sport that's not your sport.
Right.
We have heard stories
like Michael and Jordan in baseball.
To be fair, though, he's actually a pretty good ball player.
Well,
he didn't make it to the major leagues, but he wasn't bad. But there are stories of like NFL football players who are in the off season and they're playing pickup basketball and they roll their ankle and snap it in two and they can't play for the season next year, right? And it's
so they don't want them to do that.
Well, they don't want you. Well, people are too specialized nowadays, so that they are so specialized they haven't developed their bodies completely. They're so hyper focused on developing specific movements and specific muscle groups for their specific sport that they don't develop like supporting muscle groups.
Right.
So a NFL lineman, he doesn't jump a whole lot.
Right.
His job is pushing forward, right?
Right.
He's not jumping a lot. So if he goes and jumps for a rebound,
not gonna be good.
If he lands, he might actually not be very well trained at landing a jump, and his muscles to land that jump might be really weak.
Right.
So,
and there's probably very few sports that are so physical, completely
like
physical, that you could do that.
I think a swimmer.
I was going to say a swimmer and a tennis player.
Yeah, a tennis player could
I think
do it.
those sports are very well rounded on your body.
And you're using your whole body, rotating, jumping,
But,
running,
a lot
cutting.
of sports, super
a lot of sports
specialized.
are so specialized that this can happen. So,
and then in your
so
sport,
that increases the injury risk.
Right. And in your sport, I'm going to even go one step further probably. So there's probably pressure on these kids to even specialize within the sport. So in other words, you're the catcher, you're the pitcher, you're the
you're the hitter, you're the designated hitter, right?
So, that even makes it makes you less of a well-rounded
kind of athlete, right? So these kids are getting so specialized. And why is this happening? Why don't we have this old knowledge of no, you want to do multiple sports so that you develop your whole body? It's because parents are told this by the people running the leagues and by the coaches and by the extra trainers and all that. They're told that their kid's going to fall behind. They start worrying about, oh, is our kid going to be good enough at the sport to get these college offers, scholarships, and things like that? Or even
because they're young enough, even to participate in the high school level,
or even younger than that to get on the right travel team.
Right.
The correct one that's going to push their development to the next level.
I'm going to tell a very inappropriate story about something that happened. So
go ahead.
Your brother.
We love being inappropriate here. All right. Well, get your mom please moment ready, boys.
It's not like that.
All right.
So, I can recall that your brother played tennis and he still played on a traveling baseball team before he was going into high school. And he had a tennis tournament, so he missed one game.
Benched for the rest of the season.
No, we come in the next day, and the coach says, "Oh, did you take off your tutu and your skirt to come and play with us today?"
Man.
I mean, shaming him for playing different sports,
tennis.
Right?
Tennis isn't even the girly sport. I don't think. What even is a girly sport?
Well, and I think at that moment he just. Okay. Let's not talk.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. But yeah, go ahead.
But essentially, I think that was a big turnoff for him. That he was told it was okay, and then basically the coach said it's really not okay.
Yeah.
And
I hate being told one thing, and then when you do it, it's not that.
Right. And I also recall, and again, this is a little bit older kids, but I also recall you. During the winter months, you don't have much to do because football's over with, or you golfed. You golfed as well in the fall.
Yeah.
And so you were told, hey, come to the gymnastics gym and just work out with us. No big deal. Just work out with us. And you're like, well, look, I am going to try out for baseball.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we don't care. Come and work out with us.
Yeah.
And then the minute
I'm like, okay, guys, see you later. They're like, no, don't go. You should do gymnastics. Don't play baseball. Stay here. And I'm like, this was not the deal. This was I told you guys.
They were a little angry about it.
Yeah,
right?
they can stay butthurt about it.
So anyway, there's no such thing as a 3-sport athlete anymore.
Right.
That concept is completely gone, and it's going younger and younger and younger.
And that just it really, really heightens the potential risk for injury.
Right.
And there's also more burnout among the kids. They don't enjoy it as much.
Right.
And they're just so much more stressed because they have to perform all the time. It's not as much about the fun and the love of the game. What happened to the love of the game? What happened to that? We don't have it anymore.
I hate to say this, but at some point in my life, I had to quit adult old lady tennis.
Yeah.
Because everybody got so mean.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody was like so intense. And,
oh, man.
That was the worst call in the history of tennis, and ridiculous things like that, or not shaking your hand after a match. And I was like, are any of us going on the pro circuit here?
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You ladies were probably like 4-point whatever.
Yeah, we're 4-point tennis players at a club. Get over it.
Yeah.
So anyway, and now really, the bringing it into playing too much, then we're getting very injury prone. So we're seeing stress fractures, and stress fractures, I don't know if you've had one, they take a long time to heal.
Yeah, I've never had one.
And tendinitis.
That I do have.
Elbows.
That's not
it's good. Not good.
No.
It's not good. Growth plate injuries, which is just really serious for young kids, where the growth plate, isn't all the way closed yet. They're open, and there can be a lot of injury there. It's very It's not good.
Okay.
And that's a result of kids getting into weight rooms too soon and so forth.
Makes sense.
ACL tears.
We don't like those.
Shoulders, lots of shoulders on kids. Young pitchers, young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And elbow
shoulder injuries I feel like are super, super common.
Oh yeah, and it's just not good. So it just shows that these highly specialized athletes are experiencing more of these kinds of injuries.
Yeah.
And you get injured because it's a repetitive motion all the time.
Yeah.
You're pitching, you're
doing
serving,
this motion,
you're jumping,
all the time,
you're
something.
whatever it is that you do in your sport, it's causing that. And you're never getting any recovery time anymore because it has turned into a year-round sport. And like we were talking about even at the time that you were a high school athlete, baseball was almost a year-round sport.
It was getting there.
Yeah. The time that you had off, I think you guys went to the field house and you were, doing drills and stuff.
Yeah.
But at least that's developmental.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
And hopefully with that's a little bit more controlled of an environment. Like you get to actually choose how many swings you're taking, how often you're throwing the ball. Right. Whereas in a real-time situation, you don't really get to choose that. It just, however much happens.
And it just ends up this cumulative workload on your body. And think about this. I mean, I'm not dissing women here, but for men in particular, their growth doesn't stop until their 20s.
Yeah,
so you're still
25, I think.
Yeah, you're still
like
talking about a
peak.
developing body, whereas a woman will probably max out at about 15 years old.
Sure.
But given that, you're playing with fire, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm thinking of all that stress over time and all that cumulative workload. There's a really, really famous guy right now who's kind of in a bit of a pickle over his prescription medication usage, I think, and his driving skills. Yeah. But if we're going to talk about a guy like Tiger Woods,
too much.
I have some sympathy for the guy. Obviously, I'm not sympathetic towards him being influenced behind the wheel. Like you should never ever get behind the wheel of a car under the influence of anything.
Tiger, you can afford a chauffeur.
Yeah, get a private driver for the love of God, bro.
You could have
get
5
a private driver. You could pay him enough to not say anything about what you're doing in the backseat of that car.
Get an NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
So you got to think though. If this guy's driving around, I think they said he had like loose pills in his pocket, like loose pain pills in his pocket. If he's in so much physical pain,
he's in so much pain
that he's got to carry around loose pills in his pocket and operate a vehicle under the influence.
Eric, he's had multiple back surgeries.
So many surgeries. But it's because when did we see him? When he was 3 years old, swinging that golf club
on the Mike Douglas show.
On the Mike Douglas show, and he's been doing that since he was 3 years old. He's in his 50s now, something like that.
And I don't even think he started his son Charlie as early.
Yeah. So
I don't know that
you got to think that all of this repetitive stuff that these guys are doing, eventually it's catching up to you almost regardless of who you are.
Right.
And if you're a more physical athlete, like I think Tiger was the guy who had like the most physical
very
swing.
Physical golf
like he
swing.
hit the ball a mile in his prime.
Right.
That's what's going to undo you.
Right. And even the elite athletes like Rafa Nadal.
Yeah.
Towards the end of his career, lots of time off for injuries because they don't take enough time off. But that's at a world-class level. That's not at a, little youth sports.
Right.
The other thing I was going to mention is, there was this expectation of adult level demands on these young developing bodies. And
you kind of touched on that.
One thing that I found as an example that I thought I never agreed with and I was never happy about, you were in a lot of tournaments, and the tournaments typically were in the evening.
Okay.
So the coaches would give the mandate, no activity outside the houses today. You can take the boys to the movies.
And you especially couldn't go swimming. I
and
remember that.
No swimming.
Swimming was a big
no-no. Now, it's 95 degrees in the summer.
Yeah.
Keep your kid inside.
Right.
12-year-old kid inside, no swimming, no activity, because this baseball game was the most important thing.
Very important.
I don't know. I think that's where you get this exhaustion from the sport. Emotionally, you don't appreciate it as much. You have anxiety about your performance. And, a lot of these kids, you had kids, I recall, that were very good baseball players, didn't make the high school teams because they were completely burned out by that point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there was this one kid that I remember who would have absolutely filled in our first base position for the entire 4 years at high school if he had, not been completely just over the sport by that
like
point.
disenchanted by the whole thing.
And we needed a first baseman so bad, and it would have been great.
And
but
he
just was over it.
Yeah, and I think he was a pitcher too.
Yeah, he was.
And I think he was just done. He just had enough of it. And I think what happens with burnout is, for a young kid, the sport becomes a job. And I think that is just awful. And it doesn't leave any time for this. Now, don't mock me when I say these things. But it doesn't leave any time for these kids to explore theater. It doesn't explore science camp. You can't do chess groups. You can't do music.
Mom, please, if they're gonna go explore like all this other stuff, you think that coach is gonna like let up on the tutu comments?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just gonna get worse.
It's gonna get worse, right? You went to theater instead of a baseball game.
But just out of curiosity, and again, this isn't a mirror situation where your youth growing up was the same as what's happening now. It's much more intense now.
Yeah.
But just for instance, was there anything that you felt you wanted to do that you never got to do as a youth, as a kid, because of sports? Or do you think Dad and I structured it enough to where you had some downtime? Or was there stuff?
I think for me, there were definitely moments where I was pretty burnt out on a sport. I think eventually tennis really just tore through me. I just could not bring myself to lift that racket up and want to hit balls, you know. But I think that there's a little bit more to that. I think personally, I mean, my brother was a state champion tennis player, and it was so hard for me at the young age of like 12, 13 to like understand that he's going to be so much better than me because he's had a year more to develop. I'm never going to be quite at his level until much later, just naturally, probably. And Eric, that discouraged me that I was never going to be as good as my brother. So I was like, ugh.
Families are also not only accelerating all this stuff, but they have that to deal with too if they have siblings.
Yeah.
They have the fact that, and I would see these families parade in and every kid played tennis, or every kid was a baseball player, or every kid was a wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, and
every kid in those families is going to have a complex about who's the best tennis player.
Exactly.
Or who's the best baseball
wrestler
player.
or whatever.
That's just how it is. It's just how it is with kids.
Yeah.
So
anyway, my idea when I'm in my day, free time.
Yeah.
Okay, we had free time. My idea of a free time was we would get a baseball game together, boys and girls together, playing softball with the 16-inch clincher, by the way, no mitts, because not everybody had a mitt.
Right. Inclusive.
We would get somebody's football, and we would just throw the football on just one team try to get to the other team.
Yeah.
We would play catch one, catch all.
Yeah.
At night. You know, I mean, we just had more free time, and then it made your sport kind of a little bit more special, particularly if you had some acumen in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I can imagine it did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think that is a big problem, though, with today and the kids today, is that they are working so hard. They don't have a whole lot of free time. There's not a whole lot of this unstructured, like you say, hey, Susie, come out and play. You know, like there's not a whole lot of that going around.
Susie was the softball pitcher,
and
by
like
the way.
I live, in the city, and I do see the kids, like, they play with each other, but it's not like quite the same. They're playing in front of their houses. They're not going to like the park, over down the road to do pickup and
maybe
to like see where all the kids are.
Maybe basketball, because you only need 5 people.
Yeah,
maybe that happens. But
nowadays everything is so hyper structured,
organized,
and you have this like a typical athletic weekend for the kids. Looks like you travel on Friday, you play your 5 tournament games on Saturday, you play your 5 tournament games on Sunday, and then you do all your homework on Sunday night when you come home after traveling back home. And then you go to school, you have 5 days straight of school, and then you're back to it, same schedule every single weekend. Your sport is in session. So like that just doesn't give any time for these kids to be doing their any other activities. Like they don't have time to just go hang out with their friends. They don't have time for like family activities. Like, even within their own sport, like the parents don't have time to take little Johnny over to the the baseball diamond and just hit a bunch of fly balls, shag fly balls.
I don't
and
know.
my dad did that for me.
Okay,
right?
And I
You
did
did
the
You
toss
did that
drill
too.
with you all
did
the
that
time.
too. Like our parents did that for us for sure. At least like some of our parents did back then. There's none of this free play time. They don't have time to just go out and explore their neighborhoods.
Right.
There's
a lot to be said about that they can't explore neighborhoods nowadays.
Right.
But
so there's just this growing concern among
for the kid.
Basically everybody who's participating in this, except for the people making money off of it.
Okay,
obviously.
but the parents also have issues.
Yeah.
Right?
The parents naturally are going to have issues with this as well.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Okay. So
you as a parent,
parents,
speak to it.
You're talking about having the money for registration fees, tournament fees, hotel fees, airfare in some cases.
Airfare, that's crazy to me. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that I fly to Florida and I see a baseball team or
Just
a softball
a whole baseball team on
and
the
they got
plane.
all that equipment, and they're schlepping it, and and in many cases private coaching costs as well. And sometimes it gets so elevated that maybe they take the parents out of the coaching responsibility and they bring in coaches and they pay those coaches,
sure,
as well as your private batting practice, your private tennis lesson, your private your swim coach.
It must be bad if parents are giving up the opportunity to be the coach and have their kid be like the star of the team. Just because they're the coach's kid. Well, it must be bad.
Though, that's the other rip on all that.
Oh, sure.
That a lot of the traveling teams are organized around the parent.
Certain parents and
then
their
the
kids.
parents' kids always seem to be on the field.
Surprise.
Interesting.
Shocker.
Now, I have to tell a story about in your circumstance.
Yeah.
When you were, I think it was 10-year-olds, you were going down you won the district and you were going down to state.
Yeah, we went to the state tournament.
For the state tournament.
Here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, right. And when we go down there, it's taken so seriously that all the teams are staying at one hotel.
Yep.
And all the teams are swimming in the pool during the day. Okay. Our team has to be sequestered to some ratty ass hotel where we find bed bugs because we have to be sequestered from all the other teams.
Yeah.
And the mothers, praise God for mothers, are like, we are out of here. We're going back to that hotel.
Yeah.
We're taking our rooms back.
I remember that.
We are not being separated from these other teams just because we have to be all secret and serious, right?
Yeah. The sheets were brown. I'm pretty sure they should have been white. The mattresses were stained. It was a horrible little experience. And you know what? We played like crap that tournament. We did not do well in that tournament. And that was probably why. Because we didn't get a good night of sleep.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So, but families are trapped by this fear that if they don't comply with all the expectations of the team, that, their kid's going to, their
They're
kid's
gonna get
future
ostracized. They're not
going to
play.
fall behind, right?
Yeah.
So, a parent, like you turn into a chauffeur. I mean, I had a calendar that was color-coded for each of the kids. And this is where I had to take this. I mean, if you looked at it, it looked like a Jackson,
like a workflow
like
schedule.
a Jackson Pollock, because it was just so much, color on it.
Mom, please.
Yeah, and it was just horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And that was then, not now.
Right. Yeah, it's got to have gotten worse now.
Now they have to participate in fundraisers for the teams.
Yeah, things are getting so expensive.
Again, maybe outside team managers, and then they're constantly recruiting kids for at least the traveling teams because nobody wants to fall behind. And parents are not just spectators anymore. And one thing that I wanted to talk about is the parent culture. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
On these traveling teams.
Tell me, because I've not partied to any of that.
So I recall in your sister's case in softball.
Oh God, softball dads are the worst.
So
Really
your
are the
kid would
worst.
be on, would miss one ball, and the parents were on the bench screaming for that kid's head and screaming for their kid to be, to go in the game, and belittling the coaches in every way that they possibly could.
Yeah.
So the parents were not just spectators. They got involved in this bad behavior, and they're showing that bad behavior to their kid.
Right.
Right.
Good sportsmanship.
And it's just horrible. And then tennis parents, we had this one tennis family that would, parade all their kids and their cousins in. And if one of those kids lost a match, they're running suicides on the football field next to the tennis courts because they lost.
What a spectacle.
It's horrible.
Jesus.
It's horrible. So are kids enjoying that?
No, if I was that kid, I would want to murder my parents for shaming me publicly in front of the entire, not just my own tennis team, but the opponent tennis team too. It's like, come on, can we not do this on our own time here? Come on.
Yeah.
That's
so
terrible.
anyway,
That's terrible.
so are kids enjoying sports less, Eric?
See, it's a tough question to answer between you and me, because I think realistically you'd have to kind of ask the kids themselves.
A kid of today.
What do you think of sports? Are you participating in sports? Do you enjoy it? Whatever. But the research out there does suggest that fun and enjoyment is really the primary reason that kids play sports. And there are organizations like Project Play that have done surveys that consistently show that the things that they value the most, the children who are playing the sports, they want fun, they want to make friends out of it, they want to learn something from it, maybe a skill, something that they can translate to something else, and they get to go out and touch grass. They get to go be active,
they get to be active, yeah.
So that's way more important than professional careers or future scholarship
or trying
opportunities,
to set yourself up for that,
or anything like that in the future.
Well,
but there's so much pressure. And it's a lot of it is from the adults. Like a lot of it is from,
of course, it is
the organization, the league organization, the team organization, the people who are running everything. Like, so the kids just are kind of getting burnt out of it, because it seems like it's becoming less about the fun for the kids and more about the parents and especially like the private equity thing, how much money can be made off of these kids.
Well, what's interesting about that is, if I would like to ask a kid this, and let me ask you these 3 questions.
Yeah.
Is it fun to win a game?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is it fun to make a great play?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it fun to hit the ball out of the park?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So the potential for the sport itself just being fun is still there.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So that's
at least good. So there is still potential for it, but we keep, I think, as adults, trying to organize youth sports around recruiting, exposure for the kids to scouts, additional team opportunities, competition, all these weekend tournaments, playing so many games, and advancement of the kids' athletic careers. And I think a huge disconnect is found when the people who are participating in the sport just want to have fun, they want to make friends, and they just want to play the game.
At that age,
obviously,
I think that's true.
At that young age, they don't really care so much about winning yet. That comes later. That comes later. And I think it's coming too soon, though. Again, on that podcast with Kendrick Perkins and Channing Frye, they mentioned that the coaches are starting to teach children certain coaching concepts like way too early, and it's ruining their fundamental development. Like in basketball, these guys are former basketball players, right? So their kids are all participating in basketball now, and they say that the coaches are teaching like full court press by the time the kids are like 10 years old.
Yeah, and it should be,
and the whole purpose is just so that the coaches of that team can point to their record at the end of the season and say, look, we went 24 wins and 3 losses.
Right.
But it doesn't, when you're 10 years old, winning doesn't matter. It literally is probably the most unimportant thing possible. What you should be learning is sportsmanship, fundamentals. You should be learning how to be a good teammate.
Right.
Right? Like all these very basic things. Winning, that shouldn't really
Winning's
come.
nice.
It shouldn't really come until maybe you have a chance to go do something with. Maybe you're in high school, and that's.
I would say like about the age 13.
Yeah, maybe around then. You're starting to think that winning becomes more important.
But what? Explain to me what's happening with all this private equity.
This
stuff.
money.
What is that?
Okay,
what's the influx there?
So this has become something that is increasingly become an issue. Perhaps probably around like that 2019, like pre-COVID timeframe. But increasingly, athletics, youth athletics was one of the few places left in our modern society that hadn't been just completely capitalized on by private equity and private money. But it will, this number is going to shock you. Once people figured out that youth sports is an industry in the U.S., let's talk U.S. only.
Right.
U.S. only. It's an industry worth $40 billion annually. $40 billion. Do you want to know how much money the U.S. domestic box office pulled in last year?
Sure.
$10 billion. So youth sports in America is 4 times larger than Hollywood. 4 times. Right?
Wow.
So private money figures this out. They decide, all right, let's Ticketmaster these sons of bitches. Buy up all the stadiums.
Please.
Excuse me. Buy up all the stadiums. Buy up all the land, the diamonds, the baseball diamonds, the football stadiums, the sportsplexes.
Oh, so their names are all
right. So their names are all over them. They create the leagues. They force the parents to be in these leagues. They don't let the parents take films of their own kids. They force them to be on these streaming platforms. All this money is pouring in, and so these are the people. This private equity are the people that own the places where your kids play. They organize the tournaments that your kids play in. They organize the teams that your kids play on, and they have the network of all the clubs and all the activities groups that are involved in this. And they can be multiple sports. It's not just like a single sport that they're capitalizing
now
on,
that's
right?
curious to me somebody wouldn't raise an eyebrow and think that that's rather monopolistic.
Well, I think now at this point in time, you have people in our legislative bodies starting to look at this a little bit further because their kids are involved in athletics and they see what's going on. So that's kind of where I got this information about the Big Bear sports group with the hockey. Is a U.S. senator spoke on that exact topic not too long ago, just a couple of months ago. And it's something that I think maybe, we could probably spend our legislative efforts on some things that are a little bit more important, but at the same time, the youth are important. The kids are important.
Sure they are.
Developing the youth not just to win now, which is a very corporate and very Wall Street approach to things. I'm going to say, by the way,
it's a Charlie Sheen thing. It's winning.
The whole let's teach our 10-year-olds full court press and basketball is very we need to win now. We're not setting them up for the future.
And I can remember that actually occurring in your little basketball situation where you had one team had a coach that was was doing that kind of stuff. He was an NCAA commissioner.
Yeah.
And
I know who you're talking about.
And he everybody's playing man on man, and the next thing you know, there's
zone all of a sudden.
It's zone, and it's not
you're whoa,
it's not allowed in the league.
Yeah, right. It's like he took a play out of the Jim Boeheim, book, and he just implemented it and started winning all these games.
That's
and
amazing.
I think they actually the league banned the zone at some point, or at least certain kinds of zone.
I don't think it was allowed.
Yeah,
I don't think it was allowed.
Yeah, so pretty much. All this private money flows in, and it basically warps the incentive. The incentive no longer becomes primarily focused on the kids and the sport being played. It becomes more focused on how much money can we make out of this thing. So they increase the participation costs, they expand the tournaments, they make them play year round. They promote specialization within that single sport or within the multiple sports that they dominate, and they monetize every single stage of the athletic development process to the point where you just cannot escape it, right? Because they're the only people that are around. They, like you say, they kind of have this monopoly that we're starting to look at.
And you have to participate in it.
So,
if you want to
it's kind of that situation where, you're sitting in a room and you're like, what's the one thing that youth sports is missing right now? Bunch of private money in it. Because when did private money ever not come in and make something better? And you sit there and you think, oh man, that's not good. It's going to get bad from here, isn't it?
Okay, and can I just kind of riff on something for a minute?
Go
okay,
ahead. Yeah.
So one thing that we've talked about is the fact that parents are spending oodles of money to participate in this, and that they are compelled to do it because at some point the kid wants it.
Yeah.
And they want to do whatever Johnny feels is good for them.
Right.
And we talked about like the more well-heeled families will be in a better position to participate, and it creates less opportunities for more disadvantaged kids.
Yeah, lower income families.
However, I was curious about that a little bit.
Okay.
And I did look into this, and I said, well, you know what? What about the prominent programs that are out there? Will they provide scholarship?
Yeah.
And yes, in fact, they do, based on a household income, based on financial need. And if you early apply to these programs, you will be able to participate.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that parents, this is to parents.
Uh-oh.
Okay. No matter how much money you throw at a very mediocre talent, or a kid who is not motivated.
Yeah, that second one.
You will never achieve what you want them to achieve. And here's a little pearl of wisdom from a person who is both a mother and a grandmother. Your children don't always do what you want them to do.
What? What? No way. Are you... Mom, that can't be true.
So
Mom,
if
please.
the kid doesn't have the motivation, if the kid just doesn't have the same level of skill, they're never going to get there. But here is the thing. These scholarship kids, even if they play in community-based organizations, like if the best they can do is Pop Warner and not some other fancy thing, or AAU, which is not necessarily community-based, but it's affordable to these kids.
Yeah.
Even if that's what they participate, if they have mad skills, trust me, when they get to high school, they're going to be the one on the team, and they're going to be the one that scouts are going to look at when they're 16, 17, and 18 years old.
Absolutely.
They will prevail if they have the skills.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer in that.
I think so. Well,
that's all I have to say.
That's, I think, all I have to say about the subject. So, what do you think, Mom? Youth sports. Are they in crisis, or are we okay?
Okay. Or love it or leave it.
Yeah.
I'm still hopeful because I think sports are so great. And I think that kids, I never want to see a kid denied that actually has the potential.
Right.
If the kid wants to do it.
Yeah.
You can never make a kid do something that they're not going to really be motivated to do, to work hard at.
Of course.
It's just the way it is.
So, I think that pretty much about does it here for us today.
I think this dovetails into...
I think it does dovetail into the collegiate stuff.
Because collegiate stuff,
if you think about what's happening here, the parents are spending so much more money on their kids to play sports that I think people are very much incentivized to want to recoup those costs that they put into that kid as soon as possible. And that has kind of put that pressure on, before the NIL money, the name, image, and likeness money was a thing in collegiate sports. You still had athletics programs passing some money under the table that certain athletes could come play at their schools,
I don't know we should
right?
talk about that.
I mean, I think we know that, like, the Reggie Bush is like a perfect example of a guy. He got paid some money to go play for USC, got his Heisman Trophy taken away. It's pretty tough situation. But I think that there's always been that incentive for
I think there's other things about Reggie
right?
Bush that are a little bit questionable.
What, him dating Kim Kardashian?
And the sex tape, I think.
Probably. Oh, man, Lewis Hamilton is dating Kim Kardashian. Whatever. That doesn't matter.
We're never going to do a podcast on the Kardashians.
I'll talk about that later on my own time.
Sorry, Kim.
So I do think that...
So come back and listen to it.
This NIL money is kind of... It's happening because of what's happening at the youth level, or it has happened because parents have to spend so much money to get their kids to that level. So we're going to talk about the NIL stuff. We're going to talk about the transfer portal next time.
Yeah.
That's going to be our next topic. Yeah. So join us then.
If you like what we talked about today, like us.
Yeah, like us. Subscribe to us. Thank you for joining us. We, as always, appreciate you taking the time to listen to us.
Right. You know what? One thing I wanted to say to our audience.
Go ahead.
Was... we are not always as timely as we should be.
We are not. So apologies.
So
about
we
that.
apologize for that. But we take great care in the amount of research that we do on the topics. And the research is done by our crack research team, Eric and Carol.
Us too.
So bear with us on that a little bit. But honestly, every topic that we talk about, that we bring to you, we have special interest in.
We do.
We
have
enjoy,
usually some sort of personal connection
right,
to.
and we enjoy sharing.
Yeah, we do.
So hang in there with us.
And join us next time. We will see you in probably about a month. And until then, I want to remind y'all to mind the generation gap. Keep it civil, everyone.
See ya.